morning and welcome to Love Every Moment, coming to you today from the Texas border where I'm making Texas my new domicile. Today's verse is 1 Peter 5:3, nor yet as lording it over those allotted to your charge, but proving to be examples to the flock. Now this comes after last week's verse, and I have the link up here, where Peter begins to give his advice to other elders. Peter is quite a bit older by now, and the other elders may not be quite as experienced. And he ends last week's verse by saying, not for sordid gain, not to fleece the flock. So don't use your position as an elder or pastor to fleece the flock. And today he continues that by saying, nor yet as lording it over those allotted to your charge. There shouldn't be any bullying or bully pulpiting, or however you say that. There shouldn't be any browbeating from the pulpit on their congregation. And this reminds us of 1 John that talks about the boastful pride of life, someone who just wants to be large and in charge and just boss people around. That's not the idea. As an example, I know that when I have visited certain Amish communities, I've heard stories about certain elders. It's not true in every Amish congregation, but some have used this position to boss around their congregation in making decisions that have nothing at all to do with the Bible. For example, whether or not they could put a metal rim around their wooden buggy wheel, or whether or not they can use a metal windmill as opposed to a wooden windmill. I mean, this has nothing to do with the Bible. That is simply browbeating and lording over. Then it says, but proving to be examples to the flock. Now this word example in Greek, I have something quite interesting. You know, when it talks about Jesus bearing the marks on his hands and feet, that word for marks is actually the same Greek word as this word example. So when we're examples to the flock, we're also carrying that mark of Jesus. Isn't that interesting there? So we should be examples and not leading by pushing, but leading by pulling, showing the way. And let's look at a couple of cross references here. How about Titus 2:7 and 8? It says, in all things show yourself to be an example. Okay, that's that same word. By the way, all things is all things, not just in church, but even in your full daily life. All things show yourself to be an example of good deeds with purity in doctrine, making sure that it's based on the word and not on some random thing like stand for the flag or kneel for the cross. That's not in the Bible, okay? Let's see. Dignified, sound in speech, which is beyond reproach, so that the opponent, especially a non-Christian, is kind of the idea here, will be put to shame, having nothing bad to say about us. It reminds me of Daniel when his opponents were trying to find some fault of his to pin on him and accuse him before the king, and they couldn't find anything. I don't know if I'm quite there yet, but boy, wouldn't that be neat if people could look at Christians and the only thing they could say is, those darn Christians, they just keep doing everything right. Let's look at one other one. How about Timothy 4:12? Of course, Timothy was younger, and Paul, who's writing this, is an older elder. And it says, let no one look down upon your youthfulness, but rather in speech, in conduct, in love, a very important one, in faith, and in purity. Show yourself an example, there's that same word in Greek, of those who believe. So this is the way we are to do it. In speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity, we should be that example that the rest of the congregation could look to us and see, oh, this is what it's like to be a Christian, because this is what brings us closer to Christ. And that's the whole idea. Through showing the marks of Christ. And remember, the main mark of Jesus is that mark of love, and that he died for us out of that love. So let's choose to love every moment, because then we're going to love every moment. I'm your average wretch, and I hope you have a great week.